Bills back stateside. Bills playing in primetime. Bills facing a team that's one of the worst in the league, but the Bills are dealing with a lot of injuries at key spots. I'm Kevin Carroll. Welcome to Buffalo End Zone.
And I'm Jon Scott. Did you know the Bills played in London last week?
They did. Where were you?
I must have missed it. Did everyone here know this? I'm very confused. I feel like it was like a bye week.
I know you were out golfing all week long. You probably slipped your mind that they were playing over there, but the weather's getting colder. You can't really golf that much this week. So Jon gracing us with his presence once again as we get ready for a busy week of Buffalo Bills coverage, Jon. The game's one thing. What the team's dealing with right now is something all into itself. And we'll start with, of course, Matt Milano and DaQuan Jones injured over in London. That's where they got injured. I'm just going to let you know that's where that happened.
Okay.
Both going to IR and some roster moves for the Bills to get things going. But, Jon, the defense is very depleted right now and banged up as we get to this point of the season.
The question now is there hope that they could return at some point this season? Sean McDermott saying he's not willing to totally close the door on a potential return for either of them, Milano or DaQuan Jones, saying each of them has either already or is about to have surgery, and then it's kind of a timeline. We still don't know exactly what the injury is for Milano. Fractured leg, I believe, is what has been put out there. But if that's it, and there's no real major concerns or issues with the knee, I think there's a path for him to come back. Pecs take a long time to come back, but I think there maybe is more of a optimistic view for a DaQuan Jones return than a Matt Milano. And I'll just say from watching Sean McDermott's reaction, he was asked, is there potential that they could return? And he kind of hesitated. And it looked like he wanted to say one of them, maybe more than the other, but he said, let's just say both. Reading through the tea leaves and without knowing the specifics of the Milano injury, I just, on face value, not being a doctor, not pretending to be one on Twitter, I'm going to say Jones is more likely to return. So optimistic when that could be, who the heck knows? But the message from any and everyone, Sean McDermott, coaching staff, players alike, has been, you can't replace these guys one-to-one, but it's a reality of the business. We're not packing up ship and waving off the season. We forge ahead. Exactly what forging ahead looks like, I think, is really the greater conversation.
Yeah, of course, Trey White, of course, we know is out for the entire season. So this is all on the defense, Jon. A.J. Klein added to the 53-man roster. Balin Spector returning from IR.
No, his window is open from IR. So he's been designated to return, which means it's in a 21-day practice window. He hasn't officially been activated yet.
I didn't say he was.
You said return from IR.
Well, okay, I missed the word designated, but yes.
But I don't want people to think, because there has to be a corresponding roster move then whenever that happens. So he
Fair
is
enough.
Similar to Von Miller. The window is open. He's not officially on the roster. He was listed as limited on the injury report Wednesday, which was just a walkthrough. So he's trending on returning to bring depth. But again, then that means another move is going to have to be made. These things matter, Kevin. We're about the facts.
Defensive tackle Andrew Brown to the practice squad, Jon. And Josh Norman, cornerback, was with the Bills before, also added to the practice squad this week. So for what they can do right now, you're addressing linebacker, defensive tackle, and cornerback on defense. And the only way really you can at this point with the trade deadline coming up at the end of the month.
Norman, 35. I don't know if he played last year. If anything,
he played 2 games for Carolina.
So it was.
Don't look it up.
Right. It, frankly, even years ago with the Bills, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Wasn't, I think, what some people expected when he was signed. I think a lot of this is really geared towards being a veteran presence in a room that, especially with Tre'Davious White now probably a little bit detached, whether he's going through rehab or whatnot, that Norman can provide, because Dane Jackson seems like a veteran. He's only been there, 3 years, I believe. Christian Benford, second year. Kyer Elam, second year. Jamarcus Ingram is a guy, Sean McDermott says, real possibility to be elevated to the 53-man roster. He's only in his second year as an undrafted guy out of UB. So they could use a more veteran presence over there just to kind of help navigate things along with the coaching staff. But in terms of, could Josh Norman be the guy that helps pull the weight up from the loss of Tre'Davious White? No. Can Andrew Brown fill the void left by DaQuan Jones? No. Is A.J. Klein, Balin Spector, are they people that I anticipate could help soften the blow of the loss of Matt Milano? No. So I don't think that here. I think this or just happen to be the corresponding moves that they could make at this time of the year.
Right. Yeah. And you also have now Dane Jackson with a foot injury actually not practicing, but Christian Benford did practice in full for the walkthrough that took place on Wednesday.
And Dalton Kincaid still in the concussion protocol, but limited. So progressing well. And as people listen to this, as the week moves along, it would be without for sure. But when you see that kind of progression at this early stage of the week, encouraging, I would expect him to continue to move forward. So, Kevin, honestly, to me, and maybe you had this conversation after the game with an initial shell shock of the rash of injuries that the Bills had after the Jags game. But to me, it's kind of take a step back, see what the roster is right now. Do you think the Bills, with these guys filling in defensively, can win a Super Bowl?
I don't. And I honestly think where we are and where Josh Allen is in his career, I think they need to do some trades. I think by the trade deadline, they need to. I mean, you're in a soft spot of the schedule right now. You have the Giants with the worst offense in the league coming up. You have the Patriots, who have been basically shut out for 2 weeks in a row and unable to move the ball at all. And then I think the Buccaneers come up after that, who are kind of a surprise right now. But so I don't think you need to be desperate right now, but as you get close to the trade deadline, I think it's time. I mean, make a move to bring in a cornerback that can actually help you get, because it's not even like you might get Tre'Davious White, but he's gone. So you got to get someone in for that role, especially with, like you said, the younger corners in Dane Jackson. You need someone else there. Middle linebacker, I don't know.
Outside, the weak side.
Yeah, I'm so used to talking about middle linebacker. It's just stuck in there. But I think you need to, if you can. And if that means, trading high picks, so be it. Let's do it right now. If you're the Bills, okay, we've played it safe for the last couple of years. Let's not play it safe this time.
I'll go with my overall assessment. I think it'd be tough. I think it'll be tough for the Bills to win the Super Bowl if the roster remains the same with the fill-ins. I do think it's possible. I also think it's possible because the offense would have to shoulder a lot of the load. And when you look at past Super Bowl champions, the defense can't be weak, but it's not what is the driving force for the Super Bowl champion. Usually, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, some of these others, the ship is being steered by the quarterback and the offense. So if the offense can continue to be better than they were certainly in London, but be more like they were the previous 3 weeks, I absolutely think they can win a Super Bowl. It's not going to be easy, though, because obviously who else is steering the ships that are going to come head-to-head with the Bills come January?
Right.
Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, maybe Trevor Lawrence, who looked pretty good with Jacksonville, maybe Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, on and on the list goes. Right. I don't know. I do agree with you, though, in the sense I think it's worth it. With where the window is, take a shot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily feel that it needs to be taken at corner, though. I'm fine with it, and I understand even the thought of, depending upon what the extent of the Milano injury is, maybe an Achilles for Tre'Davious and how long it took him to come back from the ACL, you could be bleeding into a deeper portion of next season as well. So if you could make a move for a corner that you believe is a true number one, there you go. You're kind of covering yourself. But I think Dane Jackson is solid. I think Christian Benford is solid. I feel more comfortable about the replacement level of those guys to Tre'Davious than I do with Tyrell Dotson or Dorian Williams playing weak side linebacker. No one's going to replace Milano, who was a first-team All-Pro. There's not many out there, and there's certainly not many out there that are available for trade. But that would maybe be the position that I would look to address. DaQuan Jones is a monster. There already were having Poona Ford as a healthy scratch. I think they're pretty deep at the interior. So that would be – I'd probably go weak side linebacker 1 and cornerback number 2. Or if you're just going to make a move in general, I'd then maybe say cornerback to bolster the depth because, unfortunately, again, maybe another conversation you had, as much as I like Kaiir Elam, I think he's a great kid, I'm concerned that if that's your next man up, you're in trouble.
Well, and there was concern in London because, I mean, he was being targeted left and right, so the concern justified.
He got benched. He was benched at the end of the game for Jamarcus Ingram. And remember when I had the conversation around cut day when I was saying, if they can, I would be in favor of them trading Kaiir Elam? I specifically said because I don't think they believe or we have seen that there's that big of a drop-off from Kaiir Elam to Jamarcus Ingram. And clearly the Bills didn't think so because they replaced Jamarcus Ingram, a guy off the practice squad, in the game in London late over Kaiir Elam.
You mentioned, the Bills' offense and putting a lot of stock in what they can do, and I'm getting concerned right now. I'm looking back. I went back through their schedule a couple of years ago, and I don't know if you remember this, but they would, win a game, lose a game, win 2 games, lose a game, win a game, lose a couple of games. And it just seems like that was on the offense then, and it seems like it's almost on the offense right now because both losses the Bills have had so far has been the offense unable to deliver against teams that they should have delivered against. So I guess that does play a role in me saying if you need to make a trade to bring in bodies on the defense, that you just need to shore up that defense because prove to me that you're reliable on offense week after week. And I know it's going to be hard to judge that with the schedule coming up.
And one point I was asked to Von Miller, and he said, well, of course I'm going to answer this a certain way. But I think this is maybe where the onus is elevated on this defensive line that has played so well to start the season, that if they can continue to be as disruptive, even with the absence of DaQuan Jones, Von Miller starts ramping up a little more. Maybe Leonard Floyd somehow gets a little healthier. You get Greg Rousseau and Shaq Lawson back. Kingsley Jonathan, I think, has had some fine moments there. If you can use that unit, A.J. Epinesa has been sensational, to continue to be the driving force on defense, it's almost backwards of what I would say has been how the defense has really shined the past few years. It was the safeties were all pro level. Tre'Davious was all pro level. Levi, Dane Jackson, they were solid. You had Tremaine Edmonds, a Pro Bowl level guy. You had Milano, an all pro level guy. I think it was the back 7.
Taron Johnson.
Right.
Don't forget about him.
Yeah, thank you. Those guys were really helping a pass rush that was almost non-existent. And now maybe the pass rush with the front 4 can be the thing that helps ease things by their disruptive nature for a depleted back 7.
All right, and we get a chance to get our eyes first on what this team is going to look like in a primetime game that was circled by many back in the spring. Brian Daboll's return to Western New York. He's a Western New York guy, was the Bills' offensive coordinator. People want him to go while he was here. After he left, people want him back because they don't like Ken Dorsey. You can't win in the NFL, obviously. But this was circled, John, a lot of Bills connections to this one. But Daboll, the big one, and they were a playoff team a year ago. They're one of the worst teams in the NFL right now, and week after week have really looked bad if you had the pleasure of even watching red zone games that they're in. But nonetheless, here we are with Brian Daboll's big return.
I love him. I love Brian Daboll so much. I've said it before. I said it when he left, and I'll reiterate it again this week as he comes home. In 15-plus years doing this, and 10 years or so here covering the Bills, one of, if not the number one person that I've ever encountered. I love him. He is such an awesome dude. To me, a media guy.
Right.
Asked me about my wedding first day of training camp when he saw me. Just, it went beyond that relationship of just Daboll, the offensive coordinator, and me, a media member. And he had those relationships with almost all of the media people. And then talking to the players back then and talking to them again today, that's how he was with them. He was just, as Deion Dawkins said, he wasn't just a football coach. It wasn't, I'm going to coach you, I'm going to go home, and then I'm going to coach you again. We'd heard so often about these random FaceTime calls that he would give all sorts of players. Deion Dawkins says he still has them. Josh Allen says he still has them. He just cared. He's just such a nice guy. It was hilarious because as a press conference setting, he was horrible. It was like the Belichick in him was really to the T. But the cameras go down. He's a little off the record. Fantastic. I just love him, and I was so happy for his success in New York last year. And it's not coming this year. Part of it is injuries, especially when your best player on offense, Saquon Barkley, has been dealing with an injury. I think another Buffalo connection, Joe Shane. I think they were in a tough spot with Daniel Jones. I wouldn't have paid him, but you get to the playoffs, Daboll works with them a little bit. You're kind of in a tough spot. What do you do? That's where when people compare the Shane Daboll trajectory with the Bean McDermott, well, the Bills decided to move on from Tyrod Taylor after they made the playoffs, got Josh Allen, made the moves to do that, which was a leap of sorts, understanding that this is the guy who took you to the playoffs, but he's not the guy. They decided not to do that in New York, bring back Daniel Jones, whose backup, ironically enough, is Tyrod Taylor. So
I know.
I will run through for you, thank goodness for the Bills Media Guide, the Bills-Giants connection, the pipeline.
Let's do it.
You have Joe Shane, GM, assistant GM for the Bills, 2017 to 21. Dabes, offensive coordinator here, 18 to 21, is the head coach. Former coaches on the Giants staff, inside linebackers coach, I can't pronounce his last name. I don't remember him. Offensive line coach Bobby Johnson, quarterbacks coach Shea Tierney. And, of course, from a player standpoint, Boogie Basham traded right before the season started.
Oh, my God, I forgot about Boogie Basham.
Isaiah Hodgins made a splash last year and really not doing much or incorporated this year. As I mentioned, Tyrod. Then you have Matt Breida, who's been filling the shoes for Saquon Barkley. Nick McLeod, who I completely forgot about, defensive back.
Okay.
He's like an undrafted guy. And then Tommy Sweetie, another one of my favorite guys that I've encountered here. I had that health scare, I think, late in training camp.
Myocarditis.
That was here, but he had like a health scare.
Oh, he did?
He like collapsed or something on the field in training camp. He seems to be in a good spot since. So it's similar to when the Bills went and played Carolina, and there was always that pipeline, just natural for a regime that's connected in both capacities to the Bills. They go to the Giants. That's what you got. So a serious homecoming that's going to be happening, a reunion down in
not a homecoming of sorts.
Not a
homecoming, John.
Homecoming. So it's exciting. Joe Shane. We talk about guys we've golfed with. I golfed with Joe Shane once.
Brag about it.
I just did.
As for the game itself, though, I mean, the reunion and the homecoming's one thing, and everyone has it circled. The game's in prime time, which I think a lot of people now are thinking this game does not belong in prime time, and of course it doesn't. I mean, on paper, and we'll get to the game itself a little bit later on, this is a game that the Bills should dominate from start to finish, top to bottom. But as we said after the Jaguars game with me and Andy, week-to-week league, you always hear that with the NFL. You can assume all you want, but once the game gets underway, side note, Bills wearing their red uniforms, hate it, but here we go.
Color rush.
Giants offense, worst offense in the league. Daniel Jones still dealing with injury. It sounded like from the Giants today, or reporters that follow the Giants, that he might have had a bit of a setback today with that neck injury there. Saquon Barkley still up in the air. So you're right, John. You could see Tyrod Taylor and Matt Breida, but either way, this offense just is not clicking and not doing much of anything.
32nd in the league in total yards of offense, 255. Last in yards per play, just under 4. 23rd in rushing, 92 yards. They are 31st, so second to last in passing, 163 yards passing. Kevin, they're averaging 12.4 points a game. 12.4 points a game. Brutal.
Yeah.
Brutal. And I think I saw, while watching Red Zone on my couch, not in London over the weekend, that pick six was their first touchdown in like the first half this entire season. And it was defensive.
It's bad.
It's bad. I will say one thing I want to get into with Daboll is, because it was asked a little bit of both offensive and defensive players, Sean McDermott, is the dynamic of Daboll, his familiarity certainly with the Bills' offense, because at its core, it still is at the core what Daboll had, but Ken Dorsey's expanded some things. So he has a knowledge, certainly. It's his,
right,
of what they do. What sort of an advantage is that for him? Conversely, Sean McDermott worked with Dabes. Josh Allen and a lot of these offensive guys, they know how he calls plays. The defensive guys for years went up against Dabes calling offensive plays. What do you think, from your perspective, how do you think that maybe factors in to this game at all in terms of what either side of the ball for both teams can do?
I'll jump off with this because I forgot all about this. It popped into my head when you were talking about the offense, is the disdain that he appears to have to Daniel Jones at this point. Some of the cutaways you see on the sidelines, I think in each of these cases it's advantage Buffalo Bills. I think on defense, it's advantage of knowing Daboll and how he plays. I think on offense, it's the fact that you could give Daboll a look that he'll see and be, oh, okay, I remember this, and run wrinkles off of it throughout the entire game and just totally catch him off guard on what he's seeing and what he's hearing from the Bills offense when they're on the field. I mean, talent aside, I just think that is going to give the Bills a major edge in their familiarity with Daboll in this.
I think it's a wash because Brian Daboll can't run the offense he wants to with the guys he has in New York the way he could run it with Josh Allen elevating under his tutelage and the weapons improving the way that they did with the Stephon Diggs and whatnot. There's no Stephon Diggs to worry about at the pass catcher position. There's certainly no Josh Allen in Daniel Jones. The offensive line stinks, and so even if there were some talented guys on the outside or the quarterback could do certain things, if they have no time to get it rocking and rolling and develop, what's the difference? So to me, that's where, well, Dabes can't dig fully into his bag of tricks because he doesn't have the horses to do so. The Bills still can, and even if Daboll has an idea of what they're doing, I just think man-to-man, they still probably can't stop him. Now, Micah Hyde said some things of, maybe there will be some chess match here of, well, Dabes will see what we're in defensively, and maybe he'll think, oh, they're doing this, and then we can switch out of it. And conversely, the Bills, as you said, could do the same thing as well. It's just an interesting thing to think about because I didn't at first especially when you hear Ken Dorsey say and Josh Allen, hey, at the core of the offense, it's still what Daboll did.
Mm-hmm.
We just have expanded things a bit. The only thing I think is checks, which Josh said was asked about the LeBron James call.
That's right.
There he says we use athletes and celebrities, and I think he said condiments for different types of checks, just things that are fun for the guys.
So they'll do Taylor Swift when they play the Chiefs later in the year.
Yeah. Do you think they'll do Jackson Mahomes?
Oh, okay.
That would really be sticking one to his boy Patrick. I mean, they like each other now.
We'll stick with the offense, John, and their performance in Jacksonville, especially early on. And I guess I'll just ask you this. A walkthrough today, it's a Wednesday, normally not a walkthrough. The game is Sunday night, not Sunday at 1 o'clock, given. But is there anything to read into that, or is that just the travel that they had after the game, and it's just get the guys the walkthrough on Monday, we'll ramp it up on Thursday, do our Friday, do our regular Saturday, and then be good to go?
Yeah, I would say it's travel related.
Yeah.
Just trying to get the body back into sync here. So much was made of the getting accustomed and acclimated to things going over there. Maybe not as much being made to coming back.
Right.
Trying to get acclimated as well. And the Bills do this. They did this after the Monday night game. Granted, it was a Monday game. But they look like trash against the Jets, and they still just do a walkthrough that Wednesday. Mitch Morse even said, I think the following week the players took that as, some coaches would have really rode us hard after looking like that. They put the trust in us that we'll get the work done and turn things around, and it was a benefit to them. We'll see if maybe, conversely, coming off another loss where they didn't look great, doing a walkthrough can help be a good way to maybe focus them in more on the mental side and preparation side, get their bodies right, and go into Sunday night.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. I know when they played over in London 8 years ago, I actually went over there to cover the game that year. And I know when I came back, that was when my sleep schedule got all screwy because you get to the Buffalo airport, I went out to lunch, and was asleep by 1:30 and then wide awake at 10 o'clock at night. But eventually I got my schedule back on track. How I did it, we don't need to discuss on the podcast, but done nonetheless, John. We need a faster start from this offense. We saw them struggle early against the Jaguars. I don't think they picked up a first down in the first quarter. Which, when you have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, is kind of hard to wrap your head around. So more is needed from this offense right off the jump. I expect you get it from them Sunday night.
There's no reason the Bills just look easy. It looks easy. The wheels are greased back up. It's spinning without any resistance, any tug. It's just going. That doesn't mean you're putting up 40. That doesn't mean you're scoring on every possession. Just methodical, like you saw after the Jets game, with the Vegas game and with the Washington game. Miami was a different beast. So I'll look at the previous two right out of the Jets or after the Jets game. That's what I think is important, to see them executing efficiently and converting third downs, getting first downs, the running game working a little bit, distribution of the ball, Diggs. You just want to see everything kind of humming. Again, I'm not saying they have to win by 30, they have to put up 40, they can't ever punt. I think that's not indicative upon the Bills are back.
Right.
But I just think it doesn't need to look like it's that hard. And against what the Giants have on defense, frankly, it shouldn't.
Yeah. Giants, just 3 takeaways the entire season so far. I don't know. Do you think we even need to get into how the run game looked against Jacksonville and the fact that Your main horse was negative yards rushing. I mean, I think that has no real bearing on how we're going to see this offense approach the Giants on Sunday night.
Do you feel that this is kind of what the Bills do in this window? I mean, it seems like every year they have these random poor performances that make you question, why would this ever happen? Because sandwiched between, they're just steamrolling. And it just doesn't make sense. And yes, it's a week-to-week league, and you got all the cliches in the book. But I feel like last year they have this huge win over Kansas City. And they've had the past couple years, these big wins off of Kansas City. And then they come a couple weeks later and lose to Jacksonville, or lose to Jacksonville again, or lose to the Jets. And you're just sitting here thinking, what in the world? How could these be the same two teams when one looks like the Super Bowl steam train that we think they should be, while the other times they look and show you of, if anything's going to happen, maybe the defense will crumble, but how in the world can Josh Allen and the offense be the reason for both of their losses? It just doesn't make sense. But I feel like we've had these same conversations because of these same instances for like 3-4 years now.
Yeah, well, that's why I brought up, like, I had to go back and look at the schedule from 2 years ago, because I just recall it constantly being this up and down, and, you know, the Bills will blow a team out one week and then lose a close game. Other than the game against the Colts where they got destroyed, I think that was 2 seasons ago, and it just looked like, you know, the season was lost. Yeah, I mean, you got beat down by the Colts, and then things go back up the next week. So I think we're still seeing a lot of that. But like I said, I think with the Giants, maybe the perfect team right now for the Bills to have coming back from London in prime time. You know, you talk about your get-right games, but you have a few coming up here.
Well, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but in reality, they have at least back-to-back games you would think should be similar to the Vegas and the Commanders stretch of, all right, you're coming off of a loss, things didn't look great, you're now trying to overcome some injuries. Now you have the Giants and the Patriots in back-to-back weeks. All right, try to figure things out. The Bucs, they looked fine out the gate, didn't look that great. What was it, Thursday night a week ago or a couple weeks ago or whatever it may be. Not great there. And then you go to Cincinnati, and they're improving. But then you go to Denver, the Jets, come on.
Right.
And then you get the Eagles. And then, of course, you get the bye, and you have the daunting task here. So they're in a little stretch here where this has been the middle portion of the season. It's kind of been where they hit a lull. Maybe this is one where they can reverse that track and start being more consistent against bad teams that they probably should be.
Halloween weekend was when the trouble started last year. So we're in the scary month of October here, John. Let's go to the game. Weather, perfect football weather. It looks like for Sunday night, maybe in the upper 40s during the game.
Isn't it supposed to rain? There's like a 50% chance of rain. What is?
Not what I saw.
Well, who are you talking to?
I didn't talk to anyone,
Well,
which, to the dismay of our meteorologist friend, Kaylee Went, will probably make her mad. I just went off of my phone.
Which is always wrong. As of right now, there is a 34% chance of rain, 40% chance of rain in the evening. So
no wind, so it should be fine.
Not ideal conditions for football.
We can get into playing in weather all we want. Again, we all know, you and I have discussed it. I like it. Most people don't. A little rain.
You can like it, but it's not ideal. You can't use the word ideal if there is any sort of precipitation or wind.
I can, and I did, and I'll stick
you're
to
an
it
idiot.
and not back down from it.
That's right. I want someone else to comment and say that I'm too mean to Kevin. Idiot.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me check the Facebook. No comments. Anyways.
Even your parents won't come to your defense.
Speaking of that, shout out to my mom and dad. It's their anniversary and my mom's birthday on the same day. Smart thinking by my dad for never forgetting either of them because they're on the same day.
Does that mean you're going to give them the wrong picks right now in terms of the spread and the over-under?
Here we go, Dad. Happy anniversary. Don't listen to your son at all because it might not go right, Dad. Here we go. The Bills, 14-point favorite in this game. I've seen it at 14.5 on ESPN, but I usually go to BetMGM, and that's what they had. With how the Bills' offense performed a week ago, it's hard to take the 14 points, but it is the Giants, one of the worst teams in the league, and I think the Bills come out on fire, John. I think they get over that 14 points.
I'll take the 14 as well. I just don't think the Giants are really going to be able to score because even if Daniel Jones plays, I just don't think, again, as great of an offensive mind as Brian Daboll is, I just don't think he's got the guys, especially a quarterback, to do it. So I'll take the 14.
Maybe Tyrod comes in and gives them some life at some
I was
point.
trying to think of this, and I'm pretty sure. Tyrod's teams, he's been on teams that have faced the Bills, but I don't believe Tyrod has ever actually played against the Bills because he got a concussion his rookie season and didn't play. When he was with the Chargers, that whole needle in the lung thing. I don't think he's ever actually faced them.
Over under 44.5, and it just popped into my mind that Daniel Jones stinks on primetime football games. I think he has one primetime win in his entire career, but I think you're right. I don't think the Giants are going to be able to do anything, and I think the Bills get to like the 31-point mark, and then that's where it stays, and maybe like a 31-3 game. You have the Bills get the easy win, but there's no way you're getting a 44.5 unless the Bills put up 45 points on their own.
Yeah, I'm going under. I was just looking at DraftKings to see where they're kind of falling in terms of points for the Bills alone, because oftentimes when we're computing the over-under, at least for me, I'm like, when they're playing these bad teams, can the other team score enough? It's not as much, do I think the Bills can score 40? Can the Giants score 14? And then I think you could get there. I don't foresee it. Pretty much the money has them around 30, mid-late.
Which is kind of what I said.
28-30 is 21-30 is 100 is plus 155. That's actually pretty good odds, but you'd have to fit it in that window, obviously. So, yeah, there you go.
So I'll go with that, and I just said that, like 31-3, the final in this one. Bills get the easy win, and the season rolls on.
Wait, what did you? I was totally not listening to what you said for the score.
You son of a gun. 31-3.
I'm gonna say 35-7.
Oh. Get to the end zone. Maybe Isaiah Hodgins gets a touchdown and everyone complains that he should still be on the Bills. All right. There you have it right there, John. A little 3 and out before we go. Light up wristbands. The Bills saying for Monday Night Football, every fan in the stadium is going to get a light up wristband. I think our buddy Sal Capaccio mentioned on WGR Sports Radio that the Jets did this before the Monday Night Football game. I'm assuming it's something where something will be spelled out or something. I don't know off the top of my head. You tell me.
I will, because I was actually at the Jets game in the Meadowlands. It was actually awesome. It basically flickers or pulsates or whatever, lights up to the music. And so it can do like a wave around the stadium. It can section things off. It can flash. It could do all sorts of things. Funny enough, I'll admit it. I'm watching it and saying they'd never do this at Highmark Stadium. So, got me good. I was definitely wrong in that, but it'll be cool. And I'll just add, especially since the weather's getting colder, I think Highmark Stadium with the red heater lamps on and the Jim Kelly level, it looks awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I think it looks so cool when they dim the lights for introductions. You got the red hue of the mid-level there. I think it looks super cool. Now to add in the wristbands, it's going to be electric, even though the team maybe isn't of the level that you would hope for a primetime game.
Jets use Thunderstruck with it,
And
which I love. I love Thunderstruck. I'll pull up to a golf course blasting that music so everyone knows I'm there.
I always think about taking a drink. Do you ever play that game in college? Whenever they say thunder, you get in like a circle, and it'd be like, all right, I start, and then they say thunder, then the next person goes, and they say it so many times, it's not like you're going that long, except for there's an instrumental break in the middle, and if you're the guy or person that gets that, you're totally hosed. At my buddy's wedding like 15 years ago, I was that guy who got hosed.
I never heard of that, too. Okay. Sabres season starts this week. The NHL is now underway, John. We had our Sabres season special, not you and I, but I was part of it. And I said during the special that the buzz and the feel around the Sabres team is like it was in the early 2000s when Drury and Briere and that team started to heat up. You get that feeling that this team is heating up. I think I think they're making the playoffs for the first time in a long time and finally snapping that drought. If they win a series or not, I think they might actually win one. Like they just look like they are at the next level towards the end of last season. Hopefully going into this, they are, and goaltending holds up.
To me, a year ago, they needed help in goal. They eventually got Devin Levi, and you saw what good goaltending could do for that team. They held off making a move because, one, they didn't want to block the path for Devin Levi, and they just didn't want to give away assets because they didn't feel they were at that specific point in this build. They're at that point now. So the roster that you have on the Sabres going into opening night, whatever holes may form as the season rolls along, I feel Kevin Adams believes he's in a spot and that now is the time to make the playoffs and get these guys that sort of experience. I think anything's on the table. I think the boldest of bold moves could be on the table. I think a minor move. I think whatever they need as this season rolls along, whatever it takes, he's going to do it. And that's why I agree with her. They're going to make the playoffs. And frankly, from a talent standpoint, not being the super hockey guy, from a talent standpoint, and certainly from an offensive standpoint, if they get an improved defense and certainly better, more consistent goaltending, who says they can't make a run? When you have the firepower offensively that they do, and then you're going to insert a guy like Jack Quinn into the season coming off an injury, this Zach Benson comes fresh out of the draft and is making waves already. They're loaded at talent, and I remember listening to Kevin Adams going into the draft, and he said, you always draft best player available in every round because someone in the league's always going to need a defenseman, someone in the league's always going to need a forward, someone's always going to need a center, someone's always going to need a goalie. So if they just have a logjam of these guys in Rochester, fire away, my man, the draft picks as well.
Yeah, we'll see. That Zach Benson story is pretty impressive going into this, an added bonus going into the season. John, a week ago, you golfed every day of the week. I golfed with you a few times. I get bummed out this time of year. You're a guy who, I don't know, you're on the edge of the fall is elite.
No, there's no edge. There was no edge. Fall was elite last week when it was 75 and 80 and sunny outside. Fall stinks when it's 50 and rainy.
So you're against the weather getting cold.
Yeah, this stinks.
Yeah, it's bad. The only thing good, and I said this to my wife last night, nothing like this time of year when you don't have to put the heat on, but you can bust out the big warm blankets and get under that and get all nice and toasty. I don't know why. I find it exciting. I love it. You get all snuggly and warm.
Otto, our world-famous dog, he sleeps in bed with us, but he has started to leave the bed. I think part of it is because he gets too hot, but he has been nice and snuggly all throughout the night this week as the temperature has turned. A big win for Mom and Dad. We love to have our pup in the bed with us. I actually thought this was the week you were going to bring your annual "when do you turn the heat on" question.
That's why I didn't do it. I'm throwing curveballs at you, John. You don't know which way.
Hold strong, people. Hold strong.
I think I've told you this before. I do have a little electric heating unit in the upstairs bathroom. I did turn that on because...
In the bathroom? Isn't that dangerous? You might get electrocuted.
I don't know. It's part of the place I live in. I didn't put it in there.
Oh,
it's built in.
Oh, no. I thought you were saying it was like on the floor.
No, the rest of the house is gas, but for some reason, there's a little electric unit built into the wall in the bathroom. So I did turn that on. I mean, you can't have an ice cold bathroom.
No, that is brutal.
Can't deal with that. We got Jets Giants coming up on Sunday night.
Bills Giants.
Take two. We have Giants at Bills coming up. Color rush game. I hate it. The Giants uniforms actually look cool. They're from the 90s. The Bills red uniforms stink. That game gets underway just after 8 o'clock, and then join us for the Buffalo End Zone post-game show. Me, John, Fred Jackson, staying up late will come your way with all of the post-game comments from the players and head coach Sean McDermott, and then another podcast coming your way fresh on Monday morning. For Jon Scott, I'm Kevin Carroll. Thanks for joining us, everyone.